Welcome back everyone to our presentation on communication ability improvement for your ICET exam. Yeah. So we are going to discuss again what we plan to discuss today, that is functional grammar. So as a part of functional grammar, we have discussed parts of speech earlier in our session. Parts of speech are nouns, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, verbs, conjunctions, prepositions, interjections and articles, right. So we have discussed until interjections. Let's continue whatever we were discussing and look at the other parts of speech. Prepositions, okay. So prepositions are the words that, like conjunctions, connect a noun or pronoun to another word in a sentence, right. Few common prepositions are about, before, down, into, through, okay. So preposition is nothing but something that tells you about the position of what you are talking about, right. Is it on something, is it in something, is it above, did it go through something, or it could be various things. It's all about the position of whatever you're talking about. So here we've given you a few examples of the words that could tell you the position of whatever you're talking about. They are about, before, this happened before that, this was you standing, it was down, it fell down, into, right, it was into something, right, through, it went through, right. So it's talking about what exactly or where exactly the position of your or the placement of your topic is, whatever you're talking about, right. So that is your preposition. Take your time and try and identify a few statements that you can make with prepositions. For example, I am sitting in a chair, the glass was on the table, so on will be a preposition, in will be a preposition. He was at home, so at is the preposition. Like that you can create sentences talking about where the person is or your object is, okay. So make a few sentences and ఒక 5 sentences మీరు రాసుకొని you can practice చేయండి. Okay, sure you're done with that. In our next session, we will make sure that we include more examples and maybe few sentences that we can use to test our understanding of each part of speech. For now, please understand whatever these parts of speech mean, and you could take this as homework and do a little bit more of a research and construct sentences, five sentences with identifying each part of speech, okay. So let's move on to our next part of speech, which is which are verbs, right. So verbs are very important guys, because whenever you're talking about anything in a sentence, you talk about what that subject is doing, right. So the action would be your verb, okay. So now when I'm saying the action will be the verb, the action could have been done in the past, present, future, it could be happening right now, or even adverbs are important because it could tell you how it was happening, right. So most of our sentences, when we are telling someone something, it's about telling them that it happened in a certain way, certain thing happened. We are telling someone that something happened, right. That is when we speak to someone and tell them this is how it happened. We like to talk about things that happened or actions, right, mostly. So in our sentences, we definitely have verbs, and verbs are very important. You have to make sure that your verbs are placed properly. Unless they are placed properly, your sentences will not make give the complete meaning of whatever you're saying. Okay, so let's see what verbs mean as per our presentation. Verbs generally express action or a state of being, right? There are several classifications for verbs: action verbs, linking verbs, main verbs, auxiliary verbs, transitive or intransitive, and phrasal verbs. So there are different kinds of verbs. We will discuss this in detail in our next section, but as of now what you need to understand is the basic fundamental of verb. Verb ante what exactly it means. It's telling you about the action, and like they have said, there are different kind of verbs, like action verbs, then there are linking verbs. The verbs could tell you that that these two things are linked with a certain action, and then there are main verbs. Main thing that you're talking about, the verb would be carrying it. Auxiliary verbs are just a tiny bit of verbs. They don't contain much of meaning, but they help you construct the sentence, right? Auxiliary verbs. And you have transitive verbs that are moving from one understanding to another understanding of it, or intransitive. And you have phrasal verbs that help you frame or help your phrase construction. Yeah. So action verbs show action, right? Over here we have something mentioned, like what he is doing, like he runs, he plays, they study. So this is the action that they do, and it's called an action verb. So that's how you have action verbs. And linking verbs is like to link the subject to an adjective. John Travolta is amazing, right? So is can be considered to be a linking verb. So it's not giving you much of detail, but it's helping you link these two things that you're talking about. You're talking about the adjective, that is amazing, and then you're talking about a person who is John Travolta, right? So let's look at what we have over here. Linking verbs, adjective amazing with the subject John Travolta, right? Like I've said, John Travolta is the linking is something that is linking John Travolta with amazing, and the linking verb was is. Main verbs can stand alone. Okay, so these verbs can just stand alone. Like if I said run, or dance, sleep, anything, that is a main verb. And then you have auxiliary verbs, also called helping verbs, right? So these, like I've said, these verbs serve as support to the main verb. The most common auxiliary verbs are have, has, do, does, and did. Be, am, is, are, was, were, being, been. So these auxiliary verbs can also be linking verbs. They could play different roles in different circumstances in the sentence. So you need to understand the meaning based on how they are placed in the sentence, right? The meaning of the sentence would change based on what role your verb is playing, or vice versa. Okay, so make sure that you understand what your message you are getting from these verbs, and which kind of part of speech it is being used in. That way there will be less confusion in understanding what the sentence on the whole means. Okay, let's move on to our next part of speech, which are articles. Yeah. So as per understanding, there are two kinds of articles. Although there are like only 3 articles, there are 2 kinds of them. They have been classified into definite and indefinite. Yeah. So definite articles, as the word means, they are like concrete. There is only one. There are no 2 or 3 things that we are talking about, and it is a bit specific, right? So it is definite, and a definite article is the or the, and then you have indefinite, that is an or a. So when I am saying an or a, I am not telling you that there are multiples of them. First thing is that it is singular, and I am not telling you that it is specific. I could tell you get me a something, right? If I say get me a book, I am not asking you to get me the book, right? So there is a difference. When I say the book, you know what book I am talking about, and it is very specific to what exactly it is, right? So that way you would know, you would have an idea about what I'm talking about. Say if I tell you he was wearing a uniform, yeah, when I say a uniform, it could be any uniform, right? It could be any kind of a uniform that is their dress code, and then you have the uniform, yeah. When I say the uniform, it means to say it is specific. You know what uniform I'm talking about. Meeku already idea undi. Meeku telusu what uniform I'm talking about. That's how it becomes definite. So do not get confused between the and a. Make sure that you remember what is the difference. And for an and a, the difference between a and an will be whenever the next word, right? The next word is beginning with a vowel sound, then you will say an. Otherwise, it will be a. Okay, so that is the difference between a and an. Same goes with the and the. Okay, the is used for superlative. If the next word is in superlative speech, or if it is beginning with an vowel sound, you will say the. Otherwise, it is the. Okay, do a little bit more of homework around this with few more examples, which we will do again tomorrow. But for now, make sure that you understand that there are two kinds of adjectives. One is definite, the other is indefinite, and on the whole, the the articles are the, an, and a. Okay. We have a few examples over here. Who invented the telephone, or who invented the wheel, right? So when I'm saying the telephone over here, I'm sure you understood that I'm talking about the telephone on the whole. The whole invention that I'm talking about is the telephone, or the entire invention of wheel, right? So it is a specific invention, and it's only the, it's only the, yeah. So there is no multiples of it, right? And it is specific to a certain thing. So it is the telephone. I didn't say the telephones or anything as such, right? Neither I've said a telephone. Who invented a telephone? It's the telephone. Does anybody know who invented the telephone, by the way? Absolutely right. It is Alexander Graham Bell. Good. And the refrigerator, the airplane, a cat was chasing a mouse in my backyard, right? So this is an example of usage of the article a, right? A cat was chasing a mouse. So there was a cat. We don't know any more details about the cat, except for knowing that there was only one cat, and we do not have an idea about this cat. So if I said the cat over here, the cat was chasing a mouse in the yard, it means to say we know which cat we're talking about. You remember there was a cat that I spoke about, yeah. So that way you have an idea about which cat I'm talking about. So that is how you will identify the difference between it being a specific cat or not a non-specific cat, right? We don't know details about it. Now if I had to use an over here, an elephant, yeah, an elephant was chasing a mouse in my backyard. I know it does not make sense. An elephant in a backyard chasing a mouse is very imaginative and a crazy imagination right now. But let's try to understand English. So for that we could use an over here. The idea is that you should remember that the next word is going to begin with a vowel sound, or mostly vowel letters is what they teach you in school, but it has to do with the sound, the way the word sounds more than how it is written. Okay, so let's move on to our next topic. So we already discussed that verbs are very important to us, right? Verbs play an important role in giving us an idea about the tense, whether it was in past tense or present tense, or is it going to happen in the future, or anything of that sort, or it's happening. So that way verb gives us a lot of idea. It gives a background of basically what, when, where, and things like that. Not exactly where, but when and how, maybe a little bit of how, right? So verbs come in three tenses: past, present, and future, right? So these are the three basic tenses in which you will see your verbs, yeah. And among these past, present, and future, there are furthermore classification. The past is you also have perfect tense, you have simple tense, you have continuous and perfect continuous. So these are the four added tenses that we have. Like say for example, if you have past, you will have past past perfect, past simple, past continuous, and past perfect continuous. So we will discuss these tenses in detail now. Let's understand from the base what are tenses. Okay, so the past is used to describe things that have already happened, right? As the word says, it is past tense and it discusses about what happened in the past. Few examples are: earlier in the day, yesterday, or last week, 3 years ago. ఇవి మీకు పాస్ట్ టెన్స్లో అయినవని ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్. ఓకే, దిస్ ఇస్ నాట్ సంథింగ్ దట్స్ హ్యాపెనింగ్ నౌ. ఇప్పుడు ప్రజెంట్లో కాలేదు, ఫ్యూచర్లో అవ్వట్లేదు. ఇట్స్ అబౌట్ పాస్ట్ టెన్స్, రైట్? సో that is what past tense is in simple words. It's not difficult to forget. Sorry, it's not difficult to remember. The present tense is used to describe things that are happy right now, that are happening right now, or things that are continuous, right? So the present tense is like we all know, present tense ante present situation lo em avutundi, that is your present tense, yeah. So you don't have to get confused between past, present, and future. I'm sure you will not as well. It's very simple to understand. Let's move on to few more tenses that we have. Future tense, yeah. Future tense, I'm sure again you know what is future tense. Future, as the word says future, it means to say we are talking about future lo em avutundi, that is the future tense, right? And describes things that have yet to happen, that are yet to happen, right? So the examples are later, like tomorrow, next week, next year, 3 years from now. Or is when is the state, is the position of when it's going to happen, right? We're not talking about the past like yesterday or things like that, right? I'm talking about the future. Tomorrow is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about yesterday. Yesterday will be past tense. Present tense is today. Tomorrow is what? Future tense. Yeah, that is the simple understanding of tenses. And these are the three fundamental tenses: past tense, present tense, and future tense. Let's move on and look at how to understand these in detail with an example. So as I have mentioned earlier, we have past, present, and future tense. First that we have simple, progressive or continuous, and you have perfect and perfect, progressive, or can be called continuous. Okay, so if you see here in this box over here, let's consider this to be present simple tense, right? So in present simple tense, we are only talking about a fact without any further detail. Is it like a complete action? We are not talking about the completeness of the action. Neither we are talking about whether the action is happening right now. We are just telling you that it is an action, right? So it is an action and it's a fact, it holds good in the present tense, right? So I eat now, I eat is what I'm saying, right? But I'm not telling you that I will eat in the future, neither I'm telling you that I used to eat in the past, right? So I'm not giving much detail, but what I'm doing right now is what I'm telling you, okay, with not much of detail. This is just a fact. I eat, or I sleep, things like that, okay. Let's move on to the next type of present tense that we have. The next type would be your present progressive or present continuous, commonly known as continuous. Do not get confused between progressive and continuous. They both mean the same, okay. So if I say present continuous, do not get confused, okay. So here present continuous is talking about me doing something right now, right? I'm not telling you that I have done it, I have completed whatever I was doing, or I do whatever I'm doing. I am telling you that I'm doing something right now, right? Then, excuse me, and always you have this ending with a ing form, right? The verb will have an ing form. In most books, you will have verb plus ing, verb plus ed, yeah, or have plus verb, which is a little difficult to understand. So I'm trying to make it a bit simple for you guys. Present perfectness, present continuous is nothing but presently you're doing something, yeah. That is all the detail that you're giving. You're not giving any more details like will it be continuing or was it continuing? No. Right now it is happening, yeah. So the example given over here is I am eating. Okay, moving on. Present perfect tense, okay. Perfect tense, like I've said earlier, perfect tense talks about the completeness of the action in whichever tense it was happening. So presently is the action complete is what we would convey in your present tense, right? So perfect or present perfect would mean to say in the present moment I have done an action and it is complete or it is incomplete. I am telling you the status of that action, more or less. It may not be about the completeness or specifically completeness, it could be the state of the action, right? I am giving you a complete idea of the action by telling you whether by telling you the status of it, right? So here in this the status is I have eaten. If you notice, I have added the word have, yeah, and I use the perfect tense of the word eat, which is eaten, yeah. I have eaten would be present perfect tense. The next tense that we are going to talk about is perfect continuous. So perfect continuous, what is perfect continuous? Now when I am saying perfect, I mean to say the action is complete, right? And when I say continuous, I mean to say the action is happening, right? So let's try and understand what is present perfect continuous, right? So present perfect continuous it would be talking about the state of the action, yeah, in whichever tense that is, okay, that's present tense or past tense or future tense. Here since we are talking about present tense, so we will talk, it will give you the an idea of the action, okay, the state of the action, and the state of the action is happening, right? It is a happening action because we are talking about a continuous tense, right? And it has to be perfect as well by giving them an idea about the status of it, okay. I have been eating, right? If I say I have eaten, it means to say I've completed the action, right? And you're clear and certain that the action is complete. But perfect continuous would mean to say, would be said in by I have been eating, meaning to say I have been doing something and it is happening right now, right? It is a little confusing. It might sound like it is something that happened in the past, but no, by using the word have, whenever you see have, it means to say it is present tense. I am not talking about past tense. So, when we discuss past tense, I am sure you will get a fair idea of how to differentiate between present tense and past tense. Okay? So, in your exam, if you have a sentence starting or including the word have, so you should immediately be able to identify that this is something that has been happening in the present tense. We are not talking about something that happened in the past. Okay? Had, had is something that we will include in our further examples. Let us move on to the next tense, which is past tense. Let us look at past simple tense. Here I have something as an example, which is I ate. I ate is a simple information given, right, as a tense. The classification, the name of the classification says simple past tense, right? I am just telling you that I had done something in the past. I ate. I am not telling you whether I was eating for a long time, or am I still eating, or any more details. I am just telling you that I ate. So, that is all the detail that I am giving you in this. Very simple, just like how we had in present tense. In present tense, I have spoken about something that holds good in the present tense, right? A fact that holds good in the present situation, right? So, in the present situation, I eat, but if I have to talk about something happened in the past, I will use the past tense of that same verb, which is eat, as ate. Yeah, ate is what I am going to say in case it happened in the past. Moving on to present continuous, past continuous. In past continuous, we are going to talk about something that happened in the past. Okay, obviously we are talking about past tense, happened in the past. What was happening continuously in the past, right? So, let us look at the example over here. I was eating is the example here, right? If you look at the present tense over here, what we have used, I am. Am is what I am saying. You need to say currently it is happening when I say am. When I say was, it is was. It was in the past, right? I am not doing it now, but I was eating. Meaning to say I am giving you an idea that I was doing something in the past. Okay? It is not telling you whether I had completed it in the past, neither I am telling you whether it was going into the is it continuously happening right now. I am not telling you the status of it in the past, neither I am telling you that it is a complete action. I am just telling you that I was doing something in the past. Yeah, so that is your past tense continuous. Okay, and then moving on to something that is a little confusing over here, but it's very easy to remember if you follow whatever I am telling you right now. Perfect tense. Okay, people do get confused with past perfect tense and present perfect tense. These four blocks are where people get confused. Okay, but remember, like I have said earlier as well, when you say have, it means to say I just finished it, yeah, and I had. This is talking about a proper perfect past tense, right? I had eaten. So there is no confusion about it. It was clearly done in the past. But if I had to say I have eaten, కొంచెం మీకు ఇప్పుడు జస్ట్ ఫ్యూ మినిట్స్ బిఫోర్ 1 hour బిఫోర్ అయిపోయింది అని మీకు ఐడియా వస్తుంది. కానీ ఇఫ్ ఐఎమ్ టెలింగ్ యూ హ్యాడ్, రిమెంబర్ అగైన్, practice this, make a few sentences with had and have. You will understand the difference between saying have. When you say have, it is something that is just happened, but had for sure in the past, and we know that it's a complete action. I had eaten ante he does not have to eat anymore, or he is not eating anymore. Yeah, it's not a continuous action, neither is an incomplete action, right? It's done. Okay, or even if I had to say I had not eaten, that is also perfect past. So I had not done it. I have not eaten will be what? Have, present tense, right? Present perfect tense. That is how you will remember the difference between have and had, or nothing else but past perfectness and present perfectness. Okay, and let's move on to perfect progressive. In perfect progressive, I had been eating, right? So here I am telling you that I was doing something, but it was in the past, right? I had been eating, meaning to say in the past, yes, I was eating, but it is done, right? I had is what I am using there to say that it was happening in the past, but it is done, compared to I was eating. Yeah, so I had been eating gives you a definite idea that this action is not happening anymore, it is done. But in the past, yes, for a certain duration, from like 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the noon, I had been eating, right? Maybe that way, if you add a time figure, a time frame or something over there, you will get a better understanding of how this sentence is more suitable to a past perfect continuous scenario. Okay, so let's move on to the next tense, that is future tense. I will eat, right? So you're talking about future simple tense. You're not telling that person anything more than telling him that you will do something in the future. I intend to do it, right? I will eat. I'm not saying I am. I eat is present tense. I ate is past tense, and I will eat is future tense. But I'm not giving any more detail. Like, will I be continuously doing that action, or will that action complete in the future, or will I be doing that action for a certain amount of time in the future? Am I telling clear so far? If you want to, guys, I'm sure this is a very confusing topic, but I'm making it as simple as possible. If you're following me, it is good. Otherwise, we will do another recap, and you will understand better. Okay, not sure, but let's look at the next classification that we have here, which is progressive future or continuous future. Like I said, continuous future, right? Continuous means to say it is happening for a certain amount of time in the future, but there is no end. I'm not telling you whether there will be an end. So it would be in simple terms, I will be eating, right? So I will be eating in the future. I'm telling you that I will. Whenever you see the word will, means to say future, right? So I will do this, I will do that is simple tense. I will be doing it is continuous tense, right? So here the example we have is eating. Since we all just had lunch, we are using this as an example right now. I will be eating, I will have eaten is your next tense, which is perfect tense, right? So these last two tenses that we have, that is perfect and perfect continuous, is something that you wouldn't usually use. You'll just use the first two rows, that is your present simple, present progressive, perfect and perfect continuous. Or for the past, you will use the same thing. It would be either simple perfect tense, perfect continuous tense. Yeah. So these are the commonly used ones. However, for your understanding, let us discuss this and call it a day of learning, right? So future perfect tense, what does perfect mean? Again, let's go back to understand what is perfect tense. Perfect tense means to say the action will be complete or incomplete. We will know the status of the action. And when is this action happening? In the future. What is the action? Eating, right? So I will have eaten, right? If I say I will have eaten, that means to say future lo, you will finish eating your thing, right? And the action will be complete. Or I will have not eaten, either ways, right? But you're telling them that in the future I will have eaten. So the words that you're adding here are I will have. Have is what you're adding over here, right? And that is what will give you an idea of whether the action will be a complete action or not in the future. Okay. In present tense, we just say I have eaten. Future tense, I will say I will have eaten. Okay, that is the difference, guys. While I am discussing with you, if you are making notes, that would be actually brilliant for a better understanding and to have a more confident command over this. We'll do a recap tomorrow as well. That's when you can make notes in case you have not. The last and a little way beyond confusing tense is your future perfect continuous. Okay, so here you're talking about something that is going to happen in the future and will be a complete action after a certain amount of time, right? So you will be doing whatever you're doing and it will come to an end in the future, right? Will come to an end or not come to an end, you will know the status of it in the future, which we do not know. If you are going to do something in the future, can you guess that I will do something for so much amount of time and then it will complete? We are not certain about it, but if you have to construct a sentence in that time frame, then this is how you will construct it to pass the meaning. You will say I will have been eating. Yeah, so that is how you would convey it. Will have eaten means to say you have completely done the action, you will completely do the action in the future, right? But here I am saying I will have been eating, meaning to say in the future at a certain point in time I will be doing that action in the future, right? It will be continuous, okay, for a certain amount of time until it ends, but that's in the future. Okay, so that's about today's learning about grammar, guys. So if you come across any sentence with a tense confusion, you don't know whether this happened in the past, present or future, you can go through these things. I mean, follow this kind of way of understanding whether the sentences about the present tense, future or past tense. You will get a fair idea and you can definitely choose the right option amongst the options that they give you in your exam. Okay, so all the best for your preparation, everyone. Thank you again for viewing today's presentation. Goodbye and have a lovely evening. Thank you.